Look, if you don't believe it now, you'll probably never believe it. But the COVID measures the United States took, or the lack thereof, has always been about the economy. It's not been about anything else. We downplayed COVID in the regard of protecting the economy. It's not been about how dangerous lockdowns are. It's not been about protecting mental health. It's not about all these other lame excuses that the right seems to pull out of their ass. It's about protecting the economy. That's all our anti-COVID sentiment has been about. And we can actually see that right now because it's being projected on China, where they actually say what they mean. I'm going to play a clip for you from Fox News, and hopefully you will understand what I'm trying to tell you. We're going to go over it. We're going to talk about it. It pisses me off, but here it is. Enjoy.
Clings to a zero COVID policy, and that is China. They're not trying to live with it, they're trying to stamp it out. It won't work, but worse, their policy hurts us. China has put 20 million people under strict lockdown. There are severe travel restrictions for next week's Lunar New Year holiday. China's leader, Xi Jinping, wants a COVID-free Olympics and a COVID-free country. But China is the manufacturing capital of the world. When they shut down factories there, they create a supply chain problem here. And supply chain problems play a big role in rising inflation. Xi cannot change course. He staked his leadership on showing how China can manage COVID while America can't. Good luck with that. China's vaccines are nowhere near as effective as those developed in the West, and nobody has been able to shut down Omicron completely. Xi should accept that COVID is becoming endemic, that we've all got to live with it. But he won't. He can't. He's locked into lockdowns. A reversal would mean a huge loss of face, and that's not good in China. Just as we learned to live with COVID, China goes the other way in a futile attempt to kill it off. It's like trying to eradicate the common cold. So the supply chain problems continue and inflation lingers, and it's partly their fault.
Okay, I want to start with something first before I talk about this video, and I want to talk about lockdowns in general. I do not deny that lockdowns have an impact on your mental health. I do not deny what has actually come about the effects of isolation, because these are real issues. Let's look at some studies. COVID's mental health toll, how scientists are tracking a surge in depression. Specifically, a lot of this is among the younger age group. I do not deny that there is an unprecedented surge in mental illness in this country and beyond who have dealt with long lockdowns. But I will say this, and I think this is important to address. This is about utilitarianism in some ways, looking at the value of doing things and comparing it to others. And even if someone makes a valid point, some groups will use that valid point for their own reasoning and actually doesn't necessitate what they care about. Because this is going on in China. This doesn't affect the United States. So I was impacted mentally by COVID-19. More so when there was lots of uncontained spread of COVID-19. I lived with someone who was at risk and vulnerable to death, and it was my greatest fear to bring this home to this person. I absolutely loathed that idea. And for some time, whenever we actually did isolate or the community took precautions, I felt safer. I felt mentally better. But that's not the case for everyone. Some people who did not live with at-risk individuals, who wanted to do things on their own, were just suffering from the isolation. And that's understandable, and I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge the real mental health impacts this pandemic and isolation does have on people, because it's real. And with that being said, I want to talk about, and I made a little video so that I could talk about how China actually does implement lockdowns. And we're going to talk about that video yet again, the Fox News clip, and an article that's came out, okay? It's really important, so follow me here. Look, Don't get lied to. The entirety of China is not under some strict, massive lockdown. China is utilizing very specific COVID measures that are designed to keep a majority of the country and economy open and operational. Look, so in the United States, we simply have a laissez-faire approach. Individuals deal with COVID as it travels across the United States. Certain states have different measures. We can block off states like this, and so on. And if infection occurs here, well, they may take laissez-faire measures and allow it to encroach all over here. And COVID will spread through the entire population. I want you to treat these little dots as population centers, okay? Everything is interconnected in an economy and in a country. So what happens in China is they run these massive testing campaigns. Millions of people will be tested at once, even though there's no sign of COVID's presence. If they discover a few asymptomatic individuals during the beginning of an epidemic, they will find that and cut that place off through massive lockdowns, which separates the chain from other population centers. And if, let's say, there is two, then that chain can also be cut off. These chains are dislinked through massive lockdowns. Keep in mind, these lockdowns are not like the United States lockdowns where you go onto Walmart, you go onto a supermarket, and these places still continue to amass money through your shopping, where you can shop for anything you want. No, the military comes to your home and delivers food for you. But bear in mind that this does separate the chains of COVID transmission from the rest of the country, and the rest of the country is not under some brutal lockdown. They operate normally. Parties will be thrown here. Parties are completely okay in these population centers. But here, there is a huge crackdown. Now, I will not deny that there could be mental health impacts of brunts of lockdowns and decreased socialization. I will not deny that. But if you look at it from a utilitarian perspective of a population of 1.4 billion, nearly 1.4 billion, and maybe 1.3, we're looking at the saving of millions of lives. Look at India for comparison relative to population and what the real death total may be. If we take United States per capita, 330 million, and let's see, upwards to 850,000 deaths, and most certainly 950,000 to a million by the end of this wave, we are looking, and in the real totals, possibly greater than a million, if we're looking at undercounts, we're looking at the salvation of probably over 3 million lives here. 3 million lives saved by the collective action of a few. This is collective thinking. And though they are taking a sacrifice, they have collectively saved probably greater than 3 million lives. So, sorry, let me silence this. That's the point I want to make. From a utilitarian perspective, that's what's happening, right? And we can talk about that. And people can talk about that, and the West can talk about that, and we can talk about the benefits there, but that's not what the West is doing. Bear in mind, that's not what we are doing. We don't care about the mental health impacts. We don't care about if these people are okay with living in lockdown. I wasn't okay when COVID was spreading everywhere, and I was trying to do my best to protect someone who was vulnerable that I lived with. I was not okay then. But no one cared about me because that was benefiting the economy. No one cared. No one gave a damn about people like me who were stressed to hell because there was a virus going around uncontrolled that could have wiped out someone they cared about. But, you know, whatever. It's because that was stimulating the economy. And that's where they started projecting. That's where they started projecting, especially in this Fox News clip that you see here. This clip where this individual is talking about these lockdowns, and what is the effect? Oh, the effect is that it's hampering our economy. Why don't they just open up and let millions of people die because our economy can't handle this? Like, shut up. Sit down and admit that you don't care about human death and suffering as long as the people that you actually care about, the rich class, are making money. Let's go to another article, because this is not just Fox's News' bullshit that's coming out, okay? So this is... Let's read this real quick. Let me set this up. Let's read it, okay? This spread is most likely sending shudders through President Xi and the Chinese leadership. This is relative to the Omicron epidemic that they were suffering from. Reflexively, they're likely to clamp down harder, but a zero-COVID policy means the Chinese will always be chasing an ever-moving target, and they will never win. Inevitably, this has serious economic impacts for China, and what they really want to say, because, of course, if this had economic impacts in China, and China actually cared about their own, how the rich was doing, then they would stop. But no, and for all of us. We don't care about the West does not care about the economic impacts to China. They care about the economic impacts to themselves. And for all of us, given the country's position in the world economy, also bear in mind that the Chinese GDP grew by like 8 to 9% during 2020 because they actually implemented public health policies that worked. While China remains the production capital of the world, this is unlikely to be sustainable should lockdowns ensue. Businesses outside of China are likely to become increasingly hesitant to partner with Chinese ventures when they're unable to enter the country to meet partners and inspect factories that face unpredictable closings. Oh, here we are again. Declines in Chinese production would upend supply chains and availability of goods everywhere, including the United States. Just make sure you say it. Make sure you leave out why you actually care. Then they go on and say how they could handle this. How they could handle COVID-19 better. As well as Australia have achieved strong immunity without suffering the U.S. death rate. They have effective vaccines, made smarter decisions about when and where to impose lockdowns, like the Chinese lockdowns aren't incredibly viable and intelligent, have protected the most vulnerable older people with compromised immune systems. Community spread resulted, but it would have been inevitable even with longer or more severe lockdowns, and it allowed those countries to build up immunity. Okay. It allowed those communities to build up immunity. What is the cost of the Chinese people to build up immunity? China's elaborate containment efforts planned for the Olympics may prevent a COVID outbreak. And we certainly hope so. But they want them to build immunity. But we certainly hope so. This is the case. But a zero COVID policy is a losing long-term strategy. And of course, bear in mind, they will tell you that the Chinese death rate is a lie. That the 4,000 or so deaths is a simple lie. When you could see that there are people throwing parties, and there's certain parts of the country that I've seen. You could find this video. It's all online, public. It's not something lying. Trust me, we saw the leaks at the beginning of this. If there was massive death, full hospitals, but COVID's not that big of a deal, by the way, according to Fox News or whoever the hell wants to talk. COVID's not that big of a deal. But we know, and that China is somehow hiding the massive deaths that don't also occur in the United States. It's hard to think too much about what these right-wingers spread. And this isn't also just the right. This is not this is all your neoliberal morons. This is from the New York Times. COVID's zero COVID policy is a pandemic waiting to happen. What the hell does that headline even mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, so they project, especially the right, because they're more open about this. They will project what they actually thought about lockdowns and stuff. It's not that lockdowns don't work. It's not that it's protecting your mental health. It's not all of these things, because we see it working in China. We do. We see it working. We don't see the massive deaths that we see here. So they work. They just lie about that. The mental health impact is real. I don't deny it. There's plenty of studies on it. But we can look at a utilitarian value of the cost of life and the mental health impact of just letting a deadly disease spread, because it's not like that doesn't affect your mental health whatsoever. So they lie, and the real reason they care is because lockdowns, even if it's happening in China, is affecting their economy. So they care. They suddenly... that's why they care about lockdowns. They're projecting. It's as simple as that. The West is jealous. China won. China's economy grew during this. China saved lives. China has won. I'm not going to defend everything China does, but this is almost an objectively good thing for China. And I don't see a way of making it look like this is bad. I'm not going to say, if I was to say, I would look at it from the scientific approach that, okay, maybe the disease can become so contagious that these measures will be pointless, and from a utilitarian perspective will lead to even greater consequences in the long run. But to open up and let millions of people die, and me to argue that for the sake of the American economy, go to hell. I'm not doing that, and I don't know why anyone should. Okay? That's my rant. That's been my rant. Profit. How it makes you not care about human life, right? So if this is the one thing that they're lying about China with, what else are they lying about? It's a great question. You should think about that when you listen to the media talk about things, and relative to how we're doing right here in the United States. It's about relativity, folks. Remember, again, that Fox News clip. Listen to that Fox News clip again. Vaccines don't, you've heard them before. Vaccines don't work. Oh my God, they don't work. The right will proclaim they don't work. Except they do when compared to China. Oh, COVID's not that big a deal. COVID's not really that big of an issue. I've heard this many a times in 2020. COVID's not that big of a deal. Except when it's a bioweapon that came from China. Then it's a huge problem. Look at all the disasters it's caused. Oh my God. It's all about U.S. interests. It's all about capitalist interests. That's all this is. All right, I'm done. I'll see you later. I'm done with this rant. Peace out.